Malik Carter wasn't used to compliments, especially not while standing under a flickering ceiling light with a flathead screwdriver in one hand and a bundle of aged copper wiring in the other. But the words came anyway, casual and clear as if they were discussing the weather. "You're handsome, you know that?" The voice landed like a misplaced tool on a marble floor, sharp, startling, and impossible to ignore. He turned slowly, expecting flirtation or mockery or maybe a joke waiting in the wings. Instead, he found her leaning casually against the bedroom doorway, arms loosely crossed, expression unreadable. Elena Brooks, 32, barefoot, wrapped in a slate blue dress that clung to her like memory, soft and silent. Malik blinked once, twice, and answered the only way his brain, raised on caution and concrete rules, knew how. Thanks," he muttered, voice stuck somewhere between suspicion and sincerity. She didn't smile, didn't giggle, didn't lean into the moment. She simply nodded, like she'd stated a fact and expected it to be received as such. Not a flirt, not a tease, just truth. And that, somehow, disarmed him more than anything else. He wiped his hands on the rag hanging from his belt and stepped back from the light switch. The issue was a loose ground connection. I replaced the terminal and installed a stabilizer. You shouldn't see any more flickering. Elena took one slow step into the room. "You always explain things like that? Calm, thorough, like you've been doing it forever?" Malik shrugged, coiling the discarded wires into a plastic bag. "Clarity matters, especially when it's someone else's home." That earned the slightest shift in her features a half smile that wasn't for charm or politeness, but quiet approval. She watched him in silence, not awkward, but dense, like the kind of quiet that carries meaning beneath its surface. "Do you have time for lunch?" she asked. The question caught him mid-motion. He glanced at her, then at the room, the bag, the door, like a man seeking exits in a conversation he hadn't planned to enter. "Lunch?" She nodded. "There's a spot 2 blocks down. Great Smoked Turkey Club. My treat." Everything inside him tightened. His upbringing, his rules, the invisible code stitched into every thread of his uniform screamed one thing: never blur lines, never dine with clients, never mistake hospitality for invitation. And yet she wasn't leaning. She wasn't performing. She was just asking. "I've got another job in an hour," he said, half lie, half excuse. Not urgent, but safe. Elena tilted her head. "Another time, then." She stepped forward and extended a hand. "Thanks for the fix, Malik." Her palm was warm, grip firm. No hint of the delicate handshake he'd expected from someone with a 3-car garage and an entryway bigger than his apartment. As he packed up and walked out, he felt her eyes on his back, not hungry, not coy, just present, like someone observing something real for the first time. His truck sputtered to life under the relentless Carolina sun. He drove away from the mansion on Hollow Oak Lane with her name echoing in his mind like static on a clear frequency. At his next job, a weathered ranch house with flaking paint and a sagging porch step, he'd mostly shaken the encounter. Mostly. Until he checked his phone and saw the message. "Unknown number. This is Elena. In case you change your mind." He didn't open it. Not right away. He slid the phone into his pocket and told himself to focus. Malik Carter believed in structure, in schedules, in soldering copper pipes at 10 and paying rent on time by 25. He believed in doing things right the first time, in not needing anyone's approval. His hands stayed steady. His heart stayed out of the way. That night, though, the text still lingered on his screen like a door slightly ajar. He lay on his couch above the barber shop, the hum of the city pressing gently through the old windows. He typed a reply, deleted it, tried again, gave up. Maybe it was just lunch, maybe it was more. But Malik had survived this long by keeping kindness at arm's length. He turned off his phone, rolled over, and told himself to forget it. He didn't. Not entirely. 3 days passed. No reply, no movement. Just the quiet hum of routine trying to drown the memory of a woman who saw him and didn't flinch. On the 4th day, a second message came. Smoked turkey club still on the menu. Saturday at noon. I'll drive this time. No hesitation, no pressure, just a pin dropped in possibility. Malik stared at the screen, standing under fluorescent lights in the aisle of Bailey's Hardware, the scent of cut wood and machine oil thick around him. Before his caution could catch up to him, he typed, "Okay, drop a pin." Saturday came too fast. Malik stood outside the supply shop where they'd agreed to meet, dressed in his best not-too-casual shirt and clean jeans. He wiped sweat from his palms, adjusted his collar. At 12:02, a silver Audi pulled into the lot. Sleek, quiet. Elena stepped out, barefoot again, hair pinned up this time, tendrils soft against her cheek. Malik raised an eyebrow. "You always show up barefoot?" She laughed. "Only when I'm trying to keep it real." They drove past the edge of town, past brick storefronts and fading gas stations, into a world of tall pines and silence. No music played. The air slipped through the cracked window like a secret. "I know a place," Elena said. "Not fancy, but peaceful." 20 minutes later, they parked near a narrow stream, a lone picnic table under an oak tree waiting like a memory. Malik stepped out first, scanning the quiet. He didn't trust pretty places. They always hid something. Elena grabbed a paper bag from the back seat and walked ahead, her toes brushing the grass like she belonged there. They sat and ate in near silence. The sandwich was excellent. Turkey, cranberry aioli, toasted sourdough. He couldn't lie. She was right. Eventually, she asked, "Do you think I'm weird?" He looked at her, surprised. "I mean, I just drove a stranger to the woods with sandwiches." "You're not weird," he said. "You're unexpected." She tilted her head. "Is that a compliment?" "It is if you've spent most of your life being ignored." That shut her up, but not in a bad way. She looked at him differently then, like someone considering a painting from a new angle. "I don't ignore people. I notice." The quiet after that was easier, lighter, a bridge forming, still thin, still shaky, but real. She placed her sandwich down and brushed crumbs from her fingers. "I used to come here as a kid. My grandmother would bring me. Said the water could wash away what the world made you carry." Malik nodded, watching the current dance over stones. "Smart woman. She raised me more than my parents ever did." He didn't ask more. He didn't need to. After a while, she leaned back on her hands, face tilted toward the sky. "You know what I like about you? That I fix things cheap?" "No," she smiled. "You don't ask about my house or my car or what I do. You don't seem impressed." "I was taught not to stare at what doesn't belong to me." Her gaze shifted. "And what if it does?" He looked at her, but didn't answer. Not because he didn't know, but because some questions weren't about ownership. They were about worth. When the light shifted and the wind cooled, he stood. "I should go." She didn't move. "Will you?" "Not if you ask me to stay." A small smile touched her lips. Then stay. So he did. Malik didn't stay too long that day, just enough to finish the sandwich, hear the water sing between stones, and catch Elena's eyes when they turned soft with memory. But long enough, too, for something to settle inside him that wasn't there before. He didn't call the next day or the day after. He told himself it was caution, or timing, or the need to keep things simple. But really, it was fear. Not fear of her, but fear of what it might mean to care about someone who lived in a world that never made room for people like him. On Tuesday, while waiting on a delivery of conduit fittings, he scrolled through his messages again and saw hers still unopened, still warm somehow. His thumb hovered, retreated, hovered again. That afternoon, a second message came. "Still thinking about that sandwich? I know a spot with better views." He didn't overthink it this time. He just replied, "Friday night?" and dropped his phone on the passenger seat like it might burn him. Friday came quiet and anxious. He wore a fresh shirt, the same boots, and carried a bottle of store-bought lemonade because he didn't know what else to bring. Her house glowed in the dusk, porch light humming, windows flickering with soft music. She opened the door with bare feet and no makeup, a cardigan draped over her shoulders like armor that no longer needed buckles. "You made it," she said. "You invited me," he answered. "And you brought something. Lemonade." I panicked. She laughed, full and easy, and stepped aside. The house smelled like rosemary and garlic. 2 plates were already set on the kitchen island. Candles flickered nearby, not dramatic, not romantic, just present. Elena moved around the kitchen with a kind of controlled chaos, opening the oven, slicing bread, brushing a smudge of flour from her nose. "I hope you like salmon." "I like food I don't have to cook." Good answer. They ate slowly. The food was excellent. The stories even better. He told her about the first time he wired a bathroom alone and almost electrocuted himself because the ground was mislabeled. She told him about failing art school critiques for being too bold, too political, too much. "Too much what?" he asked. "Too much me, I guess." "You ever dial it down?" "I tried. They still found new ways to disapprove." They moved to the living room. She curled into one end of the couch. He sat on the other like a guest afraid to leave footprints. "You don't have to sit like you're waiting for a verdict," she teased. "Just don't want to overstay. You haven't even stayed yet." They sat in silence, but it wasn't empty. It was full of everything unsaid and everything forming. After a while, Elena spoke again. "You ever wonder what people say about us?" "Us? You, me, this?" She gestured at the space between them. Malik exhaled. "Probably a lot. Probably none of it good." "You think it'll matter?" "To who?" "To you." He thought about that. "It shouldn't, but it does." "Why?" "Because I know how this looks from the outside. You, with your house and your degrees and your clean white walls. Me, with my toolbox and my hand-me-down truck. You think that's what I see? I think that's what everyone sees." "Then they're not seeing it all." Her voice was firm, not angry, not pleading, just sure. "You're not a project, Malik. You're not something I picked up to fix. You're not temporary." He looked at her then, really looked. Not the way he had before, cautious and defensive, but with the weight of someone realizing that maybe, just maybe, the ground under their feet wasn't shifting, it was forming. "Then why does it feel like the world keeps trying to make me prove that?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned forward, rested her forehead gently against his, and said, "Then, let's stop asking the world for permission." When he left that night, there was no kiss. Just a quiet thank you under the porch light and the sense that something fragile had been made, not broken, not taken, but made. The next morning, Malik stopped at the diner near his apartment. He ordered coffee, sat by the window, and opened his phone. A new photo waited, a sandwich drawn in crayon. Sloppy, colorful, ridiculous. The caption read, "Visual reference for next time. Don't mess it up." He laughed into his coffee just as a man in the booth behind him said, "Ain't that the guy with the rich white lady from that Instagram post?" Another voice joined in. "He's just her little experiment." Malik stiffened, didn't turn, didn't flinch, but the coffee went cold in his hands. Back at his truck, he sat for 10 full minutes before driving off. He didn't tell Elena. Not that day. Not the next. On Monday morning, his boss pulled him aside. "You lose us the Simons job?" Malik blinked. "No, sir. I haven't even been out there in weeks. They pulled the contract, said something about public image." Public image? They see something online? Malik clenched his jaw. "No, sir. I've just been doing my job. Let's keep it that way." That night, he sat on the edge of his bed, phone in hand, thumb hovering over her name. He wanted to say something, anything, but didn't. On Wednesday, she called first. "You free?" Define free. "I'm sitting on my porch with 2 milkshakes and no one to share them with." "You bought 2 on purpose, didn't you?" No comment. "I'll be there in 15. She was already sitting on the steps when he arrived, legs folded beneath her, sipping from a paper cup. She handed him the other. "Chocolate peanut butter. Don't disappoint me." They drank in silence. The breeze rustled the trees, the moonlight spilling across the lawn. Finally, Elena spoke. "Did someone say something to you?" Malik hesitated. "Why?" "Because something's shifted. You're here, but something in you isn't." He stared at his cup. "Some guy at the diner called me your project." She closed her eyes for a long beat. "I'm sorry." "You didn't say it." "No, but it's because of me." He turned toward her. "It's not your fault. I don't fit their picture." "But you fit mine," she said, and the way she said it almost broke him. "I lost a client," he added, voice low. "Simon's estate pulled out after some photo of us started floating around." She stood. "I'm so tired of this, of people assuming they get to decide who I can be with." "Maybe we need a break." She flinched. "From what?" "From the noise. You think it'll help? If I don't breathe, I'll suffocate." She nodded slowly. "If that's what you need. It's not forever." "I know." She stepped forward, placed her palm flat against his chest. "You're not a symbol, Malik. You're not rebellion or a side note. You're not some phase I'll grow out of." He looked into her eyes. "Then why does it feel like I'm always one comment away from disappearing?" She didn't answer with words, just rested her head lightly against his. That night, when he drove away, he didn't turn on the radio, didn't check his phone, just drove, the quiet louder than anything. Rain had started falling the next afternoon, a steady curtain against the windows of Malik's apartment. He sat in his truck for 20 minutes before even turning the ignition. The silence he thought he needed had not brought relief, only distance and doubt. It had been 4 days since the milkshake on Elena's porch, and 5 since he'd asked for space. In that time, the city had carried on without him, but he hadn't moved at all. He missed her, Not the dinners or the quiet conversations or even the place she held in his life. He missed the way she said his name like it meant something beyond syllables. Missed the steadiness of her gaze, the way she didn't look through him but into him. Missed being seen. He didn't text. He didn't call. He drove. Her house looked the same, but something about it felt quieter. No music filtered through the windows. No movement stirred behind the curtains. Still, he knocked. When she opened the door, she wore an oversized hoodie, sleeves pushed to her elbows, a smudge of paint on her wrist. There was no surprise in her eyes, just a soft, worn calm. "Hey," he said. "Hey, you came from 4th Street. You tracked me? Your truck always smells like cut wire and rain." She stepped aside. "Come in or stay out, but don't let the humidity in." Inside, the house smelled like acrylic and brewed coffee. Canvases leaned against the walls. One stood half-finished on an easel. A storm painted in shades of charcoal and sea blue. "Is this yours?" he asked. "Therapy," she replied, not facing him. "You planning to show it?" "No, it's for me." He walked closer, studied the brushstrokes, aggressive, chaotic, honest. "Looks like it's been waiting a long time to exist." Elena sat down on the floor, hugging her knees by the window. "When I was 14, my art teacher told me I had talent. Then she said not to waste it on urban angst." Malik sat across from her. "I had a guidance counselor tell me I should aim for electrician because college would probably frustrate me." They laughed, but the humor was hollow, wrapped in something heavier. "I didn't come here to relive old ghosts," he said. "Then why are you here?" He hesitated. "Because I realized I'm tired of building walls when what I really want is to build something that holds." She looked up at him, eyes clear. "Then build it with me." She stood, walked to a bookshelf and pulled a slim folder from behind a stack of cookbooks. "I need to show you something." Inside were printed screenshots, blog posts, social media threads, anonymous comments. Most were about them, about him. Some mocked, some twisted their story into something else entirely. "I didn't want to show you before," she said. "You were already carrying enough." "How long has this been happening?" "Since the day we sat at that picnic table. Someone recognized me, took photos. The rest spread like moss." Malik closed the folder gently, then set it aside. "They know where you live." She nodded. "I've upgraded the cameras, put the security company on call." "You should have told me." "I didn't want to scare you off." "You think I scare easy?" She didn't smile, just gave him a long look. "You asked for space, Malik. I thought you were already gone." He exhaled. "I thought it would protect us, but all it did was show me there's no safe distance from this, from them." "No," she agreed, "but there is strength in staying close." "Then I'm here," he said, voice quiet but firm. "And I'm not hiding." She moved beside him, sat close enough that their knees brushed. "I can't promise it'll get easier." "I don't want easier. I want real." "And what does real look like?" He looked at her. "Like you and me, together, even if it gets loud." She reached for his hand, intertwined fingers. "Then let's build it now." That night, they sat on the couch again, the storm tapping the windows like it had something to say. No music, no distractions, just them and the sound of the world outside refusing to quiet. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You know, I've been called a lot of things. Too bold, too cold, too much." He kissed her temple. "They forgot the most important one." What's that? Yours. 2 weeks passed, not in a blur, but with deliberate unfolding. Sunday mornings became ritual. Malik brought breakfast, usually still warm from the diner. Elena made coffee in the French press she swore made it taste alive. They sat by the window in her studio, knees touching, sun slipping over the hardwood floors like honey. The whispers didn't stop. The stares didn't vanish. But neither did they. One morning, after toast and silence, Elena turned to him. "I have an idea." Malik raised an eyebrow. That sentence usually ends in paint or trouble. This one ends in both, sort of. She handed him her tablet. On the screen was a website mock-up. Logo, Carter Works. Tagline, built with hands, driven by heart. Malik blinked. "You made this? Every word, every color. I even picked the fonts. You're a Georgia man. Trust me, I know fonts." He didn't say anything at first, just stared. "Why?" She leaned forward. "Because when I see something real, I don't wait for someone else to validate it. I invest." "You don't think it's too soon?" "Too soon for what?" "For this. My name. On something bigger. You've already built it. I just want people to see it." "What do you want from me?" he asked. Not out of doubt, out of honesty. "I want to build something with you," she said. "Not for you, not around you, with you." That week, Malik filed for a business license. Elena helped him design flyers. They printed them at a local shop and walked through neighborhoods together, taping them to light poles and slipping them into mailboxes. One older man squinted at the flyer and said, "You Carter?" "Yes, sir." "Good. My daughter needs help with her breaker box, and good hands matter." Malik grinned the whole walk home. But progress never moves without pushback. It came the following Friday. A woman in a sharp suit answered the door at a house in South Charlotte. Ivy-wrapped columns, a driveway paved like a magazine ad. She eyed Malik's uniform. "Carter Works, huh?" "Yes, ma'am." "You're the one with Elena Brooks, aren't you?" Malik didn't answer. She crossed her arms. "She's a friend of my husband's firm. Do you really think this stunt of yours is sustainable?" His voice stayed calm. "Honest work tends to outlive gossip." She let him in, but made a phone call in the next room, clearly within earshot. Malik could hear her say, "Yes, he's here. I told you she's playing some kind of game." He didn't react, didn't flinch, fixed the wiring, wrote the invoice, walked out, sat in his truck for a long time afterward, windows down, the spring air brushing across his face like breath after drowning. His phone buzzed. It was Elena. "Lunch at the shop?" His fingers replied before he could think. "On my way. Bring paint." The shop smelled like fresh paint and possibility. One half held Malik's tools, stacked neatly beside rows of labeled bins and diagrams pinned on cork boards. The other was all Elena canvases leaned against the walls, brushes soaking in jars of mineral water, a chalkboard menu that still read, "Closed" in looping cursive. That afternoon, Malik told her about the woman in South Charlotte and the quiet insult hidden in a polite smile. Elena didn't rage. She didn't erupt. Instead, she walked to one of her older paintings, flipped it over, and said, "I painted this 2 years ago, after my ex told me I wasn't relatable enough for his firm's clients." And the canvas was a swirl of black and white, lines knotted and broken, stitched with a single thread of gold. "I almost destroyed it," she said. "But then I realized broken doesn't mean disposable." She turned to face him. You're not a scandal, Malik. You're not something people whisper about until the next headline. He stepped forward. And you're not my shield or my spotlight. I don't want a savior. I want a partner. She met his gaze. Then let's keep building. The months passed not in a blur, but like roots growing underground, slow, unseen, unshakable. Carter Works grew, not fast, but steady, word of mouth, repeat clients, an elderly man who left a handwritten note saying, "First person to fix it right the first time." Malik trained 2 apprentices from the neighborhood. Elena launched a small design studio in the back room. Once a month, they held community fix-it days free repairs for seniors, single parents, and veterans. Not a PR stunt, just presence, just work, just showing up. But not everyone clapped. The whispers came louder again. This time from a conservative blog, publishing an article titled "Community Hero or Social Climber." It twisted their story into a narrative of convenience, Malik chasing money, Elena flaunting liberal rebellion. They used grainy photos of them at a job site, captioned, "Marketing or Manipulation." Malik didn't finish the article, just turned off his phone and drove. Elena was at the back studio, paint on her cheek, wearing one of his hoodies like armor repurposed for softness. She didn't ask what was wrong. She just said, "It's out, isn't it?" He nodded. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You didn't write it." "No, but I lit the match." "They didn't come for us," he said. "They came for me. They turned what we built into a punchline. Only if we let them. I'm tired, Elena. I'm tired of trying to outwork their doubt." "Then don't." "What? Just stop?" "No," she said, walking to him. "Stop chasing approval that was never meant for you. Start telling your own story." That night, they sat shoulder to shoulder as the storm rolled across the city. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then handed it to him. "It's from NPR. They want to interview us." Malik stared at the screen. "You think it'll help?" She didn't answer, just smiled. The interview aired the following week. 15 minutes of honesty. Malik sat with hands folded, voice steady, eyes clear. "I don't need headlines. I just want to build things that don't fall apart when it rains." When asked what it meant to build with someone from a different world, Elena answered, "He brought the hands, I brought the room." And that was it. They didn't fight fire with fire. They planted instead. And people noticed. Clients reached out. Teachers wrote thank you notes. A mother said her son cried listening to the interview. The blog tried to release another hit piece. No one shared it. The narrative had shifted. Because they told their own. One night, Malik stood on the porch where Elena had once handed him a milkshake and a second chance. "You scared?" she asked. He looked out at the quiet street, the glow of the studio down the block. "Yeah," he said, "but not of them anymore." "Then what?" He looked at her. "Of how much I care about this, about you, about all of it." She stepped closer, her hand resting over his heart. "That's not fear, Malik. That's weight. The kind worth carrying." Autumn arrived slowly that year, slipping into the city like a secret. Leaves gathered in golden piles at the curbs. Sunlight softened. The air thinned. Carter Works wasn't the biggest name in the city, but it didn't need to be. Malik still answered calls himself, still carried his own toolbox, still showed up on time, in clean boots with a respectful nod. But now, when he walked into homes, people didn't look at him like a stranger. They looked at him like the guy who stayed. On a quiet Thursday, Malik stood outside a modest two-story house on Belmont Avenue. White siding, red door, a cracked driveway that would need work. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The floors creaked. The air still smelled like primer. But light spilled in through wide bay windows, casting long warm shadows across the floor like the start of something permanent. There were 2 mugs on the counter. His, hers. A stack of paint swatches labeled dining room palette. In the back room, Elena knelt barefoot, pencil in hand, sketching something across a blank wall. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Planning." "Planning what?" "A mural." "Of what?" She turned, smiled. "I think it starts with hands." He walked over, kissed her temple, breathed her in. "You know, this still feels wild, right?" "It's not wild," she said, turning to face him fully. "It's earned." The dedication came 2 weeks later. Not for the house, but for the studio. They had stripped the old storefront down to its bones, built it back up with their hands. One side held tools, wires, and diagrams. The other held color, brushes, and long tables for community art days. The front door bore a simple wooden sign, the Brooks and Carter Studio. That day, people came. Old clients, new neighbors, Devon's grandmother, who brought pound cake and wax paper. Near the end, Elena took the mic. She didn't read from paper. She didn't rehearse. "There's a difference between being handed something and being trusted to build it," she said. "This didn't fall into our laps. We laid every plank, screwed every hinge, painted every corner. We built it, knowing some days the world would ask us to choose between love and peace, between truth and safety. We chose each other, and we'll keep choosing." Then Malik stepped forward, looked out at the crowd, people he once thought would never listen. "I used to think the only thing I'd ever own was a toolbox," he said. "Turns out I own something a lot heavier. Hope." The applause wasn't loud. It was real. And that night, on their porch, wrapped in a shared blanket, they watched the wind carry leaves into the gutters and sky. "I still can't believe it," Malik whispered. Elena leaned into him. "Then let me remind you." And she did, with her hands, with her words, with the quiet, unshakable truth that they hadn't just survived, they had rewritten the ending.